Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Today, I'm here with my buddy David Richter, and we're going to be talking about how to run a more profitable business. Where we're at right now in the economy and this market cycle with this COVID thing is the best time to clean up some old mistakes that you maybe have been making so that you too can run a more profitable business. Welcome to Real Estate Investing Secrets. We're all looking for freedom and the opportunity to live better, more fulfilling lives. But most of us were trained our entire lives to work for someone else and chase their dreams. How can we use real estate investing as a vehicle to achieve financial freedom? My life is dedicated to answering your real estate investing questions and helping you build an investing business that allows you to change your life and the world around you, and to enable you to turn your dreams of financial freedom into a reality. My name is Mike Hambright from FlipNerd.com, and your questions get answered here on the Real Estate Investing Secrets Show. Hey, David, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you again, buddy.
Yeah, you too.
So we've gotten to know each other a little bit over the past several months after you joined our Investor Fuel Mastermind and help some of our members as well with basically one of the things that most real estate investors hate to do, which is kind of the financial side of their business. We all get in this to make money and earn enough money to have freedoms, but actually doing the accounting and the financial side of the work, like that's something that very few real estate investors that I know, enjoy doing. But it's like one of those things that's obviously a necessary evil, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So today we're going to talk about, some of the mistakes that people make, how they can kind of clean up their books a little bit. You operate off of the profit first kind of principle, and we're going to learn a little bit more about that. And I think what's happening right now, and you'll see it. I saw somebody post something today on Facebook, actually. They're like, hey, I didn't, not to say anything bad as if you did do these things, but I didn't try to get SBA loans. I didn't do the PPP thing. Like, let the businesses that need that, handle it, because I've been in a position to where I can weather any storm I need for 12 months or whatever. So there's some people that are buttoned up that always have some reserves and ready to go. There's some people that are living deal to deal, as you know, which is, not what we want any real estate investor to have to do. And so I think today you've seen plenty of that before, right?
Yes, I have. Exactly. You need that next deal just to survive.
Yeah. So everything I talk about, everything I do in real estate is always around teaching people how to build real estate as a real business that has repeatable processes and systems and generates enough cash flow to where you don't necessarily have to be there every single day, and you're not living deal to deal. And so I know we're cut from the same cloth in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So David, maybe introduce yourself a little bit and kind of tell us a high level what you do, and then we'll kind of start to dig into some details.
Sure. I'm David Richter from Simple CFO. That's the business that I own. And I help real estate investors know their numbers, but not only that, but help them find money that they have maybe hidden inside of their books, help them to actually know where you stand, help you make and keep more profit, help implement profit first. So it's really, I like to say that I'm an interpreter, because I know the CPA and the financial accounting, that language, but I also know real estate investor, as being an actual real estate investor, doing hundreds of deals that I've been a part of over the course of my real estate career, and actually doing deals of my own too, having my own rentals and doing some fix and flips of my own. So it's like, I know the language, I know that part of it. So it's I try to make it very simple for the real estate investor when we have these types of meetings where we're going over numbers, strategy, and whatnot. So it's not just, I'm not just going in there and saying, okay, doing the bookkeeping, cleaning that up. No, it's more really helping that investor know where they stand and making it make sense from the real estate perspective.
Yeah, a lot of the biggest challenge that most real estate investors have from an operating standpoint is inconsistency.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't advertise consistently, or their exit strategy changes, and it's usually because of access to cash. Like, well, I got to stop advertising now because I'm waiting until this deal closes, or things like that. And the truth is that's really terrible. It's already a volatile business. No matter, I mean, there's it's consistently inconsistent,
Yeah.
but I would argue that the majority of that stuff stems back to the financials of the company and cash flows, for sure.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. Knowing where you stand and being able to predict what you actually need to market in order to get consistent deal flow in. And it's a lot of people just don't either know how to do that or don't want to take the time to sit down to do it. So it's like really knowing those numbers can really be make or break between you having that consistent income or not.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some of the big mistakes that you've seen, whether it's investors you're talking to that you don't work with, or when you bring on new clients to try to help them understand what their financials look like? What are some common situations you've seen?
I think it's called like the first time right principle or something. It's like making sure that you have a process for when something goes in, like an expense or deposit or whatever it might be, making sure that it's in there correctly, because that's one of the things I've seen that really hinders a real estate investor is not knowing, like, okay, I have these numbers, but are they accurate? And can I really have confidence in them? And so
Right.
it's making sure you have some type of process to be able to pull out those numbers, because those numbers really tell you where you've been, and you need to predict where you're going. And if you have that data and you know that it's clean and accurate, it just helps you strategize and plan a lot better. So
Yep.
doing it right the first time, getting that process in place, you don't even have to be a huge part of it. Maybe you do if you don't have a bookkeeper or whatnot, but if you have someone to do that for you, it's okay. What do you need from me as the owner in order to make sure everything is categorized correctly? Or do we have some type of system to ask questions, even if it's like, if you're a part of EOS, the entrepreneurial operating system or something, where you have those weekly meetings to make sure that if a question does come up, can we answer it, and can we answer it in a timely fashion? So having some sort of system or process to get that stuff in there, so that way you
Yep.
have that confidence in your numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. And it all stems back to really kind of being organized, right? I mean, I
Mhm.
know we have very buttoned up systems now in my office. My wife is effectively our CFO, and she's like super organized.
Awesome.
But the average real estate investor, and I remember the days of when I mean, I rehabbed, hundreds of houses. I don't do this anymore, but I used to go, I'd be running to Home Depot. I'd be picking up stuff, and I'd have like pockets full of receipts. I just come in and I've got this like big thing of receipts, and like, which house is that for? Gosh, I don't know. Just apply it to this one. Obviously, there's some simple things you can do, and of course, there's a ton of apps and stuff now,
Right.
and softwares that you can use to keep this really organized, right?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
There's a system out there for whatever you need now. No matter if you have a bunch of QuickBooks entities, or you've got a bunch of entities, and you need to push them from one place to another, and you just take a receipt and upload it to the right place. There's a system out there that can help simplify, especially on the finance side. But Mike, there's a system for everything now, if you really
Yeah.
want to sit down and go through what you need to streamline.
Yeah, yeah. And I think for some people too, when you hear a system, like there are some apps to help,
Mhm.
but sometimes a system is just like a process, kind of like
Right.
how
Yeah.
you do things, right? It could be, maybe it is still a physical receipt, but you have a specific inbox, you write on it which house it's for. It's just kind of the way that you do what you do, so that you don't
Exactly.
have a shoebox full of receipts somewhere that is super unorganized and nobody's ever going to be able to reverse engineer what it's for.
Right, exactly. So just
Yeah.
having that system or process will save you headaches down the road, but not only just headaches down the road. It's when push comes to shove, like if it's during a big crisis, knowing that you can go to your numbers and that they're accurate, and saying, okay, this is where we stand now. What do we need to do in order to push through this?
Yeah. Yeah. So talk a little bit about what the Profit First. A lot of people have read the book Profit First,
Mhm.
and then you have your book too, which I just happen to have on my desk here. This is not like a ploy to win your friendship or anything, buddy. It actually is a great book, but I just happen to have it sitting here on my desk because you gave these away at our last Investor Fuel
Mhm.
meeting. But just kind of talk about what those Profit First principles are, just to kind of make people understand a little more clearly.
If you've heard of the envelope system, then you've pretty much heard of Profit First, and it's the envelope system for businesses. So you set up different bank accounts, and you are managing your cash flow by every single dollar that comes into your bank account that's income. I'm not talking about you get overfunding on a project, and you take other people's money and disperse it.
Right, right,
No,
right.
we're talking about income as it comes in. You disperse that income across different accounts. So it's like setting aside a small percentage for profit, and setting aside a percentage for like operating expenses, setting aside money to pay yourself, setting aside money to pay your taxes. So that's really the foundational accounts that he suggests setting up in that book. And so every single dollar that comes in, you apportion to those different accounts, and it really helps you know what your cash is doing, where do we stand as far as like operating expenses or taxes for the year, or even profit as far as that goes too, making sure that you are profitable. That's why I like the whole profit first system, because it forces you to say, you're a business owner, you should be able to pay yourself first, like all those books tell you, and like The Richest Man in Babylon, that that was written almost 100 years ago, that where you actually take the money that comes in and you say a portion of this can go to profit. And he's got the different percentages across those accounts, even if you go to like the website or whatnot. And that's really what you're doing. You're apportioning a percentage of that income across different accounts to make sure you have enough to pay yourself, to pay your taxes in the next year, and to pay
Yeah.
for operational expenses too. So that way you're running a healthy business. It's a great health thermometer too of the business that I've really seen, because obviously if you don't have enough income to cover that operational expense, then you're not either doing enough flips, or you're really, like we talked about, you're inconsistent and you don't have it
Right.
enough to be able to spread it out over the next few months. Because I've got some clients who do really big deals, but they do like one a quarter, or they do, one every couple of months. So that's when you really have to have a system like this. It's like, you can't just take that money from that sale and then go out and just blow it on everything. You need to make sure you
Yeah.
have some type of system to be able to manage that cash flow. Otherwise,
Yep.
you're just going to be from deal to deal. You're going to be bleeding yourself dry. So it's really helping you on that. And it's really simple for an owner, because an owner likes looking at their bank balances instead of QuickBooks or some report or whatnot. They want to
Right.
see, okay, what do I have enough money in my operational expenses to cover my operating expenses for this month? So it's really giving the power more to the owner now, instead of someone like a bookkeeper saying, okay, here's where you are, even though that is always going to be relevant and you want to have that for strategy sessions. But as far as like actual looking at your bank account, you probably look at your bank account more than you talk to a CFO or to your accountant or whatnot. So having some type of system to actually manage where that money's going really is beneficial to the entrepreneur or the real
For
estate
sure.
investor.
Yeah. I've known, I mean, honestly, I'll just throw myself out there. For years, we always paid ourselves a small salary throughout the year. And then most of our revenue or income would come at the end of the year when we see like how much is left that we can pull a distribution out, or that we can pay ourselves in bonuses or things like that. And it kind of sucks. So like you kind of work the whole year and like find out at the end of the year if you're really going to get paid or not. And so I think it helps prevent that. And then of course we've all known people too that, are spending their money faster than they're making it.
Mm-hmm.
And now tax season comes around and the financials say that they did well, but they have nothing to show for it. And now they don't even have enough money to pay their taxes. I mean,
Right.
we've all seen those things, which are crazy. It's crazy. Small entrepreneurs, small real estate investors run into these things all the time.
All the time. I
Yeah.
95% say like, oh yeah, we made a profit on our P&L, but where's the money? Like, I don't have
Yeah.
that money. Where'd it go? And
Yeah.
that's where knowing how to get that, and knowing where that really is, and really setting up profit first too. If you have accounts that you really don't touch, then you can be like, hey, that's where it is. You actually have that cash on hand now. And I know it's very, especially as a real estate investor, it's very tempting to want to take that money out and be like, instead of saving this tax, I could go out and buy another house. Well, then that's where your money's going. Then then you can physically see where your money is going if you're doing that stuff, robbing an account that you're going to have to pay in the future to do something like that. So that's why
Yeah.
that system's so relevant.
Yeah, yeah. So talk a little bit about what some people could be doing, now. Obviously, you have a service. They could read Profit First and kind of understand the structure. There's some basic things that people could be doing in terms of review. I mean, a lot of us are, sitting at home or at home a lot more frequently these days, or at the office or whatever. We're more on lockdown. What are some things people could be doing to kind of get themselves a little more buttoned up these days?
Sure. Now is a great time to find money in your business. And by finding money, looking at where everything is going out, where everything is coming in, and how to maximize both. So looking, okay, how can we cut the expenses that we don't really need, and getting a system in place to make sure that, that there's anything that we should not be spending money on, getting that out the door, because that's found money. That's going to be
Yep.
money that will multiply over the next few months, especially, that just help you be, having a lot more cash on hand. And then really looking at what you have as income coming in. Do you have enough that either is in your current pipeline that you could realistically sell, or if you have rentals, how did April's rent collections go, or your current month's rent collection go? And are you being proactive on making sure that you're doing everything possible to get the rent collection in for the next month. So it's really taking a step back on the practical side and saying, what money can we find this month? Is there any money to be found that, we might have done this exercise last month, but is there anything this month that we can find? And I'd almost be doing that, especially, it depends on how big of a company you have, but almost on a weekly basis right now. There's a client that I'm working with who I actually worked with for about a year, even before I started officially the CFO business, where he got into a really good cash position, about 8 months worth. But right now he's looking at it, and he's got about 4 different companies. He's looking at it on a weekly basis. What expenses are going out my door? And we called them the expense Nazi. Like, he's got someone inside of his company who is on a weekly basis. That's what they're reporting on their like level 10 from EOS. They're reporting what expenses went out the door, explaining why they went out the door, and against what they said that they thought for at the beginning of the month would go out. And then as far as income coming in, what income has come in, especially for the repeatable income, like the rental, are we hitting our projections even on a weekly basis of what we think that we have projected, especially during a downtime? So that's some practical things where you're not only holding yourself accountable, you're holding your numbers accountable. And there's money to be found everywhere, especially in your expenses and in your income. So there's some practical things you could be doing on a weekly or monthly basis to try and find any extra dollar you can.
For sure. Yeah. It's amazing to me how many, and this took years to kind of realize this, of how little real estate investors, how little time real estate investors spend on keeping more of what they make.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it is, and I'll say this, I also know you can't cut your way to prosperity, but you need to be frugal, right? So I think one is cutting unnecessary expenses. And, everybody's in a little bit of a roller coaster. Like, it's kind of like feast and famine. Like, things are good, you get a little sloppy, then you have a bad month or a slow month, or there's a downturn in the market or whatever. And then you're like, okay, every penny counts. Like, we kind of go through these like cycles, probably even throughout the year.
Right.
But even from a tax standpoint, like if people spent more time learning more about self-directed accounts and all the things you can do that real estate investors have as tools to keep more of your money, we work so hard to make that top line revenue, and gross revenue for sure. And it's like, we don't spend a fraction of the time that we do on making it as we do keeping it. And so
you're keeping it because
yeah.
You don't want that tax account. You don't want to have to build it up very big. If you can get as much of that, the expenses that you can on your rental properties, or like you were saying, using those self-directed or the IRA type of accounts. And I know some of that money you can't touch now, but if you can do a deal or two, that's another just whatever that bottom line profit is that you won't have to potentially pay taxes on. So it's like you just getting that can exponentially increase your bottom line too.
Yeah. And I think probably do you have clients that probably realize during this time, and I think some real estate investors do, that some of their business practices, or maybe it's a exit strategy they have or something they do, is not even that good of a business, right? They start to realize like, I prefer to rehab, but they're like, well, it turns out maybe you're not making much more money. I mean, when you look at a closing statement, and you think, well, I bought it for this and I'm making that. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of other expenses that go into those things. So I think sometimes people are doing specific things in their business that aren't even that profitable. They don't ultimately know it, right?
Right. And the answer is yes. There are clients that I've sat with and have been like, okay, they don't even like some of the portions of their business they were doing, and they want to get out of that part of it. And it's not as profitable as some of the other portions of their business. I've seen some of the fix and flippers that I work with too, and that have rental properties. It's like, do you know how much work it goes into, fixing this property, and not just like your property profit, because your property profit is basically gross profit. So like what went into that, what operational cost went into that property, when like, what is your bottom line after that? Where that's why I love Investor Fuel and that mastermind that you run, because it's like you make them force it to bring out their KPIs. What are you, especially because this is one of the things we go over is okay, what is your average profit on a rental? What is your average profit on a fix and flip? What is it on a wholesale deal? Like, what are those averages, just to see how profitable you are on the different exit strategies you have. But then it's like you have to take that a step further and say, what was the operational cost really to to run this wholesale arm or to run this fix and flip arm or the wholetailing or whatever they might be doing, the rental portfolio. And I had a client where he was doing short-term and long-term rentals. We were able to break down all those costs between short-term and long-term. And like he, even though he was making more, like bringing more in on the short-term side, it turned out he was spending way more and it wasn't even as profitable as the long terms. And this was in a competitive market. So he was just
Yeah.
like, I'm shutting those down. I'm just going all to long terms. And that's much more consistent. It's a less operational cost. And for some other people, it was maybe the fix and flip arm. Maybe they were like, we're making X on this, X on the fix and flips, X on the wholesale, X on our rentals, and the fix and flips might look good, but then what does it take to get there and how can we either scale that down? And I'm seeing now a lot of people are actually they want to dive into their businesses now. They want to see, what do I really want to do as a business owner? What do I enjoy doing? And if I enjoy the fix and flip, or if I enjoy this part, how can I expand that without blowing up my expenses and without going crazy on that side, and be more consistent and get the consistent profit? And that's what I'm working through with people. It's really, what do you want to do and how can you make it as productive, profitable, and efficient as possible?
Yeah,
So
that's
I've
great.
definitely seen that.
There's probably never been a better time for real estate investors or small businesses or even large businesses right now, forced on us, this COVID thing, to reflect on, do I even like what I'm doing? Or
Yes.
why do I do these things? Like, does that even make sense? Or why haven't I been moving into bigger deals? Or,
Yep.
we just have this time to kind of sit around and reflect on why we do what we do. And I would encourage everybody, if you haven't been doing that, if you've been spending all your time on Netflix or sleeping or whatever, like this is the truth. I've been
Right.
working more in this downturn than ever.
Oh
And
yeah.
some of it is like strategic stuff.
Hmm.
I've caught myself doing a bunch more content that's fun and stuff, but it's not necessarily strategic,
Sure.
or it's, but we all do a little bit of that. But to just kind of plan for the future, reflect on like, this has been good, but I shouldn't do that anymore. Or this never was good. Let's just call a spade and like stop doing that, right? Or
Right.
we have time to think about all those things now.
Right. And that's the power knowing your numbers really gives you. You can know, okay, I have the data to back it up. Oh, I might not like this portion of my business, but it's the most profitable and the least and the least cost to me. So it's like, okay, well, then can you replace yourself at this point? And if you went to just that one exit strategy, or if it's like, well, if you're doing something you don't like and it's not as profitable, how can you get out of that and into the other portions of your business? And now's a great time to be able to take a step back and take stock and say, okay, what am I doing that's working? What am I doing that's not working? And
Yeah.
how can we fix them?
Yep. Yep. Awesome. Well, David, you offer a service for folks that they can hire, kind of a fractional CFO service where people can get some of the help they need if they can't, afford a full-time CFO. Many real estate investors, doesn't make sense for that to be a full-time role
Right.
until you're much larger. And so that's the beauty of this kind of knowledge economy, is you can get an expert without having to have a full-time expert necessarily, right? So
Right.
tell us a little bit about your service and how folks can find out more about it.
Sure. So Simple CFO Solutions, if you go to the site simplecfosolutions.com, there's an apply button on there, because I usually work with about 10 companies in a quarter, which actually I'm now expanding to 20 over this next quarter because there's another person. We've just seen a lot of demand for it too. So I'm
Yeah.
partnering with another person to try and up that number over this next quarter. So that way we can help more businesses. So that's how you can apply. And as far as the services go, we like delivering the value. So it's like a lot of the people that we meet with, it's almost weekly that we're meeting for at least an hour, just going through what they need to go through, whether it's nitty gritty stuff or the higher level strategy, just depending on where the entrepreneur and the investor is on their finances. So that's really the nuts and bolts of it. Is we make sure to actually bring that value to whatever they need on the financial side. So that's really what we've been doing. Then whether that's implementing profit first, or making sure that their books, they have the accurate and they're confident in those numbers, or training people on their team to maybe even take over the financial role. So if they need someone that, okay, this is what a real estate investor is looking for, or we help people just with that position, if we take that over, as far as like, here's what you should be looking at, and here's the things that are really going to matter to you as a real estate investor. So that's a little bit about the services. You can go to simplecfosolutions.com, and that's where the apply button is. And that's where you can go from there.
Awesome. We'll add a link down below here, and I think they can find your book on the same on your website as well,
That
right?
is as well too. Yeah, the Less Stress, More Profit book. I happen to have a copy sitting next to me
Yeah.
too, and so that book is also on there. It's available on Amazon. But if you're listening to this podcast too, I also recommend if you email the email address lessstressmoreprofit@gmail.com and just put Flip Nerd in the subject title, and that will send you the audiobook and the PDF version for free. If you want the hardback version, then you'd have to. It's not a very long book, but you could go to my link on my website, the Recession Proof Business link, and it'll take you to the Amazon page.
Awesome. We'll add links for that down below. And I know several members of our Investor Fuel group are your clients and have said great things too. I mean, there's a lot of, we both know a lot, and the types of people that are in the Investor Fuel Mastermind are type A personalities, hard charging, building businesses for sure. And sometimes the very stuff that you practice and preach is secondary to them. That works for a while sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't, but eventually it'll catch up with you. And so I think you have a great service there, and people should check it out for sure.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, David, thanks for joining us today. Great to see you again.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Everybody, thanks for joining us today. Hope you got some great value out of this. You should check out David's service. I think if you're a small business owner, especially if you're a real estate investor in the real estate space, he not only knows the business because he's been doing this for a long time, it could really help you kind of get your house in order a little bit. What a great time to do it. So if you guys got some value today, I'd love it if you haven't yet subscribed to our Flip Nerd podcast. We've been doing this show for about 6.5 years, cranking for a long time, hundreds and hundreds of shows, and we appreciate you following along. If you're new though, we'd love it if you subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Radio, Google Play, YouTube, wherever you're watching or listening right now. Of course, you can find all of our shows, audio, video, and thousands of hours of content for free on flipnerd.com. So appreciate you a ton. Stay safe. We'll see you on the next show. Thanks for listening to today's show. There are 3 ways I can help you start or grow your real estate investing business. If you're a new investor and just getting started, the Flip Nerd Investor Coaching Program is the most effective program in America. I've been coaching and mentoring new real estate investors for 10 years, and my students have literally purchased thousands and thousands of properties. Many of them started with little to no experience at all. Our program is a paint-by-numbers program where we tell you exactly what to do week by week to make sure that you don't get distracted on your way to results. We show you how to build a real business, not just create another job for yourself. New memberships are limited. You can learn more and apply or schedule a call with me and my team at flipnerd.com/coaching. If you're an experienced investor doing a minimum of 10 deals a year, up to 500 deals a year or more, or have a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio already, you should check out our powerful Investor Fuel Real Estate Investor Mastermind. Over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors are members, and it's not uncommon for our members to 2 to 5x their business just from getting around other members at Investor Fuel. At Investor Fuel, each of us are business advisors to one another's businesses, but we don't stop at business. We focus heavily on becoming better people and living fuller lives. If you're looking for fuel for your business or fuel for your life, please check out investorfuel.com. Applications and interviews are required, as most investors are not a fit for our community. Please learn more at investorfuel.com. If you're not ready for coaching or masterminds but eager to start learning more about investing, please join our private Facebook group by visiting flipnerd.com/Facebook. New members get access to free training from us right here at flipnerd.com, and it's a community to safely ask your questions, a great place to get started. Simply go to flipnerd.com/Facebook to request your access today.